The tragic tale of the Schmidt family, love, loss, and the fragility of life. The great outdoors has long been a place where families escape the hustle and bustle of daily life, immersing themselves in the tranquility of nature. Camping trips are often filled with laughter, storytelling around the fire, and a deep sense of togetherness. However, for the Schmidt family, what was meant to be a peaceful retreat into nature turned into a horrifying tragedy that shocked the nation. On the night of July 22, 2022, an unknown assailant brutally attacked the Schmidt family while they slept in their tent, leaving behind a crime scene so chilling that even seasoned investigators were left shaken. This video explores the lives of the Schmidt family, the details of that fateful night, the investigation that followed, and the lasting impact of this senseless act of violence. The Schmidt family was known for their kindness, warmth, and strong familial bonds. John Schmidt, a 42-year-old accountant, and his wife, Laura Schmidt, a 39-year-old schoolteacher, were deeply devoted to their two children, Emily, 10, and Jacob, 7. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood where they were beloved members of the community. John was a hard-working man who took pride in providing for his family, while Laura was a passionate educator who loved helping young minds grow. Their children, Emily and Jacob, were bright, full of life, and deeply loved by their parents. Together they formed a family built on love, adventure, and an appreciation for the simple joys in life. Camping was a cherished tradition for the Schmidts. They would often spend their weekends exploring national parks, setting up tents, and enjoying the beauty of nature. It was during one such trip that their lives would be tragically cut short. On July 21, 2022, the Schmidt family embarked on a weekend camping trip to Pine Ridge National Park, a scenic location known for its dense forests, serene lakes, and breathtaking views. Excited for a weekend of adventure, they pitched their tent in a secluded spot near the river, eager to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with each other. That evening, they enjoyed roasting marshmallows, telling stories, and watching the stars light up the night sky. Unbeknownst to them, darkness was not just falling over the landscape, it was creeping into their fate. At some point during the early hours of July 22nd, an unknown attacker entered their tent and carried out a merciless assault. Investigators later determined that John and Laura had been stabbed multiple times, while the children were killed with blunt force trauma. The brutality of the attack sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community. No one could understand why such a loving family had been targeted. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing appeared to have been stolen. It was a crime that defied logic and humanity. The Schmidt family's bodies were discovered the next morning by a fellow camper who had grown concerned after noticing their untouched campsite. What he found was beyond comprehension: a blood-soaked tent, silence where laughter had once been, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Authorities were immediately called to the scene. The investigation was led by Detective Michael Reynolds, a seasoned officer with over 2 decades of experience handling violent crimes. As he surveyed the scene, he knew instantly that this was not a random attack. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the attacker either had access to the tent or the family had left it unzipped. The method of the attack indicated a personal or deeply disturbed assailant. No valuables were stolen, ruling out robbery as a primary motive. The small town of Pine Ridge was thrown into turmoil. Rumors spread rapidly and fear gripped the community. If such a brutal crime could happen to a family as innocent as the Schmidts, then no one felt safe. The search for the killer became a nationwide effort. Investigators interviewed campers, park rangers, and locals, hoping to uncover any leads. A key piece of evidence emerged when a hiker reported seeing a suspicious man lurking near the Schmidt's campsite on the night of the attack. Surveillance footage from a nearby ranger station captured a lone individual entering the park after midnight. His face was obscured, but his movements were erratic. Authorities worked tirelessly to identify him, releasing a sketch to the public. The investigation dragged on for weeks, creating heightened anxiety among Pine Ridge residents. National media coverage added pressure, with many questioning if the case would ever be solved. Weeks passed and the case seemed to stall, but then a breakthrough came. DNA evidence from the crime scene matched a man named Robert Hayes, a drifter with a long history of violent offenses. Hayes had been released from prison only months earlier, after serving time for assault. He had no known connection to the Schmidts, making his motive unclear. Upon his arrest, Hayes showed no remorse. In a chilling confession, he claimed he had been hunting for victims that night. The randomness of his attack sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned law enforcement officials. Robert Hayes stood trial for the murders of the Schmidt family in a highly publicized case. Prosecutors painted him as a predator with no regard for human life. His defense team attempted to argue insanity, but the overwhelming evidence left little room for doubt. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before finding Hayes guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Justice had been served, but the loss of the Schmidt family left a permanent void in the hearts of those who knew them. The tragic deaths of John, Laura, Emily, and Jacob Schmidt serve as a sobering reminder of the unpredictability of life. Their story is one of love, innocence, and the cruel reality of violence that can strike even in the most unexpected places. This case also sheds light on the need for enhanced security in camping areas, better tracking of individuals with violent pasts, and a continued effort to prevent such senseless crimes. Efforts have since been made to improve safety measures at Pine Ridge National Park, such as the installation of surveillance cameras at key entry points and increased patrols by park rangers. Additionally, the tragic case reignited discussions on the importance of mental health support for individuals with violent tendencies. The Schmidt family embarked on their trip with dreams of adventure and togetherness. They were a family who loved deeply, laughed often, and cherished every moment together. Their tragic fate is one that will never be forgotten. While the case has been closed, their story continues to echo in the hearts of many, serving as both a warning and a heartbreaking testament to the fragility of life. May their souls rest in peace, and may their memory remind us all to hold our loved ones a little closer each day. Through their story, we are reminded to embrace every moment, contribute to a safer society, and treasure the connections we hold dear. The Schmidt family's legacy lies not only in their love and happiness, but in the profound lessons they leave behind.